Well, hello everybody, my name is David Tate, and if you're watching this video, it is probably because you're as big a fan of The Chosen as I am. And the reason I'm a big fan of The Chosen is because I'm a self-declared Bible nerd. I love everything there is to know about the Bible. I love diving deeply into the scriptures, and one of my favorite things about the show is how faithful it is to the scriptures, building upon them in such a way that it's theologically accurate, but also taking artistic liberties with locations and chronology and all that different stuff, but really fleshing out the characters and enabling you to really step into the story. And I absolutely love that about the show. And today, hopefully this video is being released on Good Friday, and Season 2 is premiering on Easter. The Episode 1 is premiering on Easter. That's going to be available on the Chosen app. And so what did I want to do on this Good Friday to prepare us for Season 2 is I wanted to give some Season 2 predictions. What I think is going to happen in Season 2. And I could be going off the cuff and just talking about different plot elements just that I think that they'll incorporate into the show. But what I'm going to do, because I'm a Bible nerd, is I'm going to turn us to the scriptures and see where I think they're heading and what biblical stuff they're going to cover in Season 2. And because I'm a Bible nerd, of course, I've got an Excel spreadsheet that has this entire gospel harmony that I'm going to use to try to help us understand where they might be heading in this show. And just so you know, I'm not such a nerd that I created this harmony for the show. If you don't know what a gospel harmony is, basically, it's where you take the 4 different gospels and you try to line them up into a rough chronology of how things probably happened, right? And so I've got this Excel spreadsheet that has this whole gospel harmony that I created, but I didn't do that for the show. I am a big enough fan of the show where I could have done it, but I actually really enjoy studying the Gospels, and so I actually created this a few years ago, and I've been adjusting it the more I study Scripture. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that Excel spreadsheet, which I have added details into just to talk about what they've covered in Season 1, where I think they're going to cover in Season 2, and what we've learned a little bit from the Season 2 trailer that tells us what they're definitely going to cover in Season 2. And so I'm going to go to that Excel spreadsheet so you can see how much of a nerd I am. And so here we are. This is my spreadsheet basically covering the Gospels. If you start here and I scroll all the way to the bottom, as you'll see, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it basically covers everything from the beginning of John chapter 1, which starts at the beginning of all creation, all the way to Jesus' ascension at the very end of some of the Gospels, right? And so that is what the spreadsheet is, and as you can see here, I've color-coded it to where I've actually put some things in here where we've got green color is Season 1, things that were covered in Season 1, and then gold is going to be things that I think are covered in Season 2. And so as we see here, we've got the boy Jesus in the temple. That was covered in, I think, Episode 5, believe, because that was the whole story with the wedding in Cana. And so we had a flashback at the beginning of that episode, which basically just covered Jesus and his mom, that whole interaction where Jesus was left in the temple. Jesus grows in wisdom and stature. I kind of just lumped that in there because there's really not much to cover there. Jesus turning water to wine, that's also Episode 5. Jesus meeting with Nicodemus, that's Episode 7, I believe. I'm testing my knowledge here. Jesus goes through Samaria, that's Episode 8, which I haven't released my breakdown of that on this channel yet, but that's coming soon. I should be filming that with people on Saturday. And then the woman at the well, that also takes place in Episode 8. Jesus moves to Capernaum. We don't really see that move going on, but they kind of already covered that, where Jesus is living in Capernaum at the beginning of the show. Christ teaches from a boat, nets are filled with fish, Jesus officially calls his disciples. That all happens in Episode 4, where, Jesus, he encounters, Simon, Peter, and Andrew and them, and he officially calls them. The miraculous catch of fish. Jesus heals Peter's mother-in-law. That's Episode 8. So you can see how they kind of shuffle the chronology here, but I'm totally fine with that because they're still being very faithful to Scripture when it comes to the theology, and that's the main thing that matters here. And obviously, my chronology could be wrong because we don't know exactly. Sometimes the gospel writers are talking more thematically than they are chronologically, and so we have a tough time coming up with that stuff. Jesus healing a leper, that took place in Episode 6, I think. I think it was Episode 6. Jesus forgave and healed a paralytic man, also Episode 6. And so really these things could have happened in between those, right? Jesus calls Matthew, eats with tax collectors. He calls Matthew in Episode 7, eats with tax collectors in Episode 8. And I think that might be it for Season 1, right? So that's all the biblical content. So you see how much more we've got to work with when it comes to this show, right? They're planning on 7 seasons. There's a lot to cover. To be fair, a lot of that is set in the last week of Jesus' life because the Gospels spend a really focused amount of time there. And there are a few things that we know they are for sure covering in Season 2 because we got a trailer for Season 2, and if you followed some of the stuff, you know that they're going to cover certain things. But that being said, I was going to start by talking about the chosen, right? The chosen 12 people, Christ's 12 apostles. Who do we think are going to show up in this season? Well, at the end of Season 1, we basically have 8 disciples, 7 of whom are currently already with Jesus, right? We've got Simon Peter, who has not been called Peter yet. We've got Andrew. We've got James, the son of Zebedee, who is called Big James. We've got John, the son of Zebedee. We've got Matthew, who is called in episode 7. We've got little James and Thaddeus, who in this account, in the show, they're actually his first apostles. And then we've got Thomas, who he has not become an apostle yet, but I believe that's going to happen at the very beginning of Season 2, because if you remember, in Season 1, Jesus said that they were going to Samaria, and they were going to meet them there, right? And so Thomas and Rama, they're going to go there, and I believe they're going to both become disciples of Jesus, right? But Thomas obviously is going to be one of the inner 12, right? And we've got some other disciples in there, Mary Magdalene, and I think Tamar and stuff. They're going to also be lumped in there, but my main focus is on the 12 because, those are the main people we're talking about here. And so we've got 8 of the 12 who we've already met, which means there are 4 left, and I am thinking that we're going to meet all 4 of these within Season 2. Because I think that they kind of need to have all 12 apostles picked and chosen by the end of Season 2, because then we got to move forward and cover the other stuff. And really, you see in the Gospels that the 12 apostles are chosen fairly early in Jesus' ministry. So if we're going to do a 7-season show, by the end of Season 2, I think they got to have all 12. I could be wrong there, but that being said, I think there's good reason to believe this, because this is where I'm going to start kind of hopping into my selective guesses, my hypotheses, I guess you could call them. So I believe we're going to meet Simon the Zealot. This should be green, shouldn't it? Let me change that. Boop, that's green now. I think we're going to meet Simon the Zealot, mainly because they've talked about an assassination attempt that they had to film. It was their first action scene of The Chosen. And I think that would make sense because Simon the Zealot, the term zealot, was a political group at that time they were zeal, like they had a lot of zeal for their beliefs, and sometimes they would be more inclined to perform these very political acts, sometimes kind of like terrorism. And so it seemed like Simon the Zealot was from one of these radical groups, and so he might be the one at the forefront of that assassination attempt. So I think that Simon the Zealot will be part of Season 2, and so I'm going to color him gold, even though we're not 100% sure. You know what, maybe I can color him a little bit lighter color of gold, since we're not sure. There you go. Okay, I do think that we're going to meet Bartholomew or Nathaniel, because we actually do, there's this one scene in the Season 2 trailer which came out. Today I'm filming on Thursday. The video's coming out Friday. But they released the Season 2 trailer on Wednesday, which you should go check out. I also did a reaction video to that, so please go check that out as well. But there's this one scene where we see this guy underneath a tree, and he's meditating on the scriptures. And that perfectly, that encapsulates how we encounter Nathaniel for the first time in John chapter 1, where Jesus actually greets Nathaniel and says, "Hey, I saw you under the fig tree." And that also would incline me to believe that we are going to meet Philip as well, because Philip is the one who actually introduces Jesus to Nathaniel. And so that means that I think we're going to meet both of those guys in Season 2. But then I also think we might meet Judas Iscariot. And there's a few different people who show up in the show and in the Season 2 trailer that make me think that he might be Judas Iscariot, but I'm not totally sure, so I can't say for certain, but we can speculate. And so I'm also going to mark Judas Iscariot with this light yellow, light gold color, because I think it's very possible that we can meet these 4 guys. If they introduced 8 people in Season 1, I see no reason why they couldn't introduce 4 more in Season 2, and therefore we could have the calling of the disciples at the end of Season 2. I think that's going to be how, really, this is just me speculating here, right? I don't know how it's going to end. But I'm going to go all the way down here, see where I've marked this red? I think this is going to be the end point for Season 2. That doesn't mean that things down here couldn't also happen. I don't know. They very well could, because they could shuffle the chronology around. But I think that this might very well be the culmination of Season 2, where Jesus goes up on a mountain, he prays, he comes down, and he chooses his inner 12. That's where I think this might be heading, but I don't know. It also, see, right here, there are other things that could say, the Pharisees plot to kill Christ. We do have people in the Season 2 trailer talking about how they want to kill somebody. and it could very well be that they're talking about Jesus. I'm not sure, though, so I'm not going to 100% put that down yet. First, so now that we've talked about the 12, I want to just take some time to talk about the things we know for sure are going to be in Season 2 before I start to speculate about some stuff. Right? And so, one of the things that I think we know for sure is going to be in Season 2 is that Jesus chooses his first disciples, mainly because we already had half of this account in Season 1, because this is John 1:35-51, where Jesus actually would seem to meet the first 5 of his disciples. First off, he meets Andrew, which they portrayed a little bit different in The Chosen, because they have Andrew hearing about Jesus from John the Baptist, and he does actually meet Jesus briefly, and then he runs to Simon and does all this stuff. But that all happens in John chapter 1, well before the whole catching of the fish, right? So Andrew and some other disciple, they meet Jesus. Andrew runs off, gets Simon, and then so now there's 3 disciples. And then, while they're on their way to the wedding in Cana, they encounter 2 more, Philip and Nathaniel. And so I believe we're going to meet Philip and Nathaniel for reasons I mentioned earlier. And so I think that one's a pretty confident, we're going to have at least that encounter in Season 2. And so I'm going to mark that like a solid gold, because I think that's for sure going to be there. Also, I think Jesus, we're going to see him being accepted in Samaria, because this is literally where Season 1 left off, right? Season 1 left off where Jesus saying, he's told the woman, I'm the Messiah. And then you have, the Trouble song playing, and they walk into Samaria. And so I think episode 1, I can even predict there. I think it's going to be episode 1. They're going to be in Samaria. I don't know how long they're going to spend in there. I imagine it's probably just going to be 1 episode, but it could be 2. I don't know. They're eventually going to go down to Jerusalem. But I think they're going down to Samaria. They're going to be accepted there, and you're going to see Jesus thriving. His ministry is going to be going good, and I think we're going to see some, the chosen people, the apostles. They're going to start fighting for who's in charge and stuff like that. And then I will say here that they did flip the order of how this is going. In the Gospel of John, Jesus is traveling from Jerusalem through Samaria to Galilee. It seems like how they're doing it, he's going from Galilee to Samaria to Jerusalem, which, once again, that's fine. They just flipped it because they stayed in Galilee the whole time, because first off, budget, you can't just be traveling all the way. They film in Texas, and then they do the Jerusalem scenes in Utah and stuff, so I understand why they did that. It's not a really big deal. I'm just saying this for you watching this video. But then we're also going to see John being imprisoned, because we do actually have that mentioned in the Chosen Season 2 trailer. Right, because we have them talking where we actually get this scene between Jesus and John the Baptist. I'll be excited to see that, because we don't really get a lot of that in the actual Gospels. But we get to see John's humility and stuff. But then in the Season 2 trailer, it does talk about how John the Baptizer has been imprisoned. And so I'm going to mark that gold, because we know for a fact that is going to happen. Whether or not we see his death in this season, that remains to be seen. But we do know he will for a fact be imprisoned. And then I think we're definitely going to see the Sermon on the Mount, right? This is this whole section here, the Sermon on the Mount. I don't know if necessarily the Luke account is the same sermon. That's just just if you're wondering why I put that there. They could be 2 different things. The Sermon on the Mount and Sermon on the Level Place could be the same thing. Could not be. It doesn't really matter. But I know we're going to see the Sermon on the Mount, because they filmed that here in Texas a few weeks ago, or a few months ago now, I guess. I didn't get to be in it. Sad day. But yeah, they filmed the Sermon on the Mount here in Texas, and so yeah, they're definitely going to have that in there. We actually see that in the trailer where he's walking up onto this platform, which is a very interesting take on the Sermon on the Mount, but I'm excited and I'm here for it. And I think there's one other thing way down here that we know for a fact they're covering, and they're covering Christ healing the man at the pool of Bethesda, which does take place in John chapter 5 after Jesus has appointed the 12 apostles. I do think they're going to shuffle the chronology of that just a little bit, because I think they're going to pass through Samaria to Jerusalem, and I think this scene might happen in episode 2 or 3, pretty early on. It might be one of our first big miracle scenes, and I think that's why they emphasized it in the trailer, and they've emphasized it in other videos. So I think that's going to be our big first miracle of the season. So the chronology is going to be a little bit different, but that's also, once again, it's not that big of a deal, and also my chronology could just be wrong. I'm just more of a chronology dude, and so I just focus a lot more on that than I probably should. But yeah, so we're going to see that scene, and I'll be interested to see how they portray that, because if you read the Gospel of John in chapter 5, it seems like this guy does not respond how he should. It seems like he is not nearly as grateful, and he actually hands Jesus over to the Pharisees, which results in basically this whole debate between Jesus and the leaders of Jerusalem, which for now I'm going to mark with a light gold because I think it could very well lead to that depending on how they interpret the scene. In the trailer, it makes it seem like the guy's very grateful, but that could be a temporary gratitude that soon gives way to fear. And so I'll be interested to see how they handle that. For right now, I'll paint it a light gold until we have more to work off of. But that being said, what other things do I think are going to be in here? Well, basically, any of this is fair game. I think we might get some more flashbacks. Technically, they did already cover the birth of Jesus in the pilot episode, The Shepherd, which came out back in like 2017. So I don't know if they're going to cover that or not. But yeah, they might have some more flashbacks. They might have flashbacks to Jesus' childhood or something. That'd be kind of cool. I think that'd be neat. We might get some flashbacks to the baptism of Jesus and the temptation in the desert and stuff. I don't know. I don't know how they're planning on doing that because where the show's taking place, it kind of is after all that stuff happened. But I'd be very interested to see their take on that because those are very significant moments in Jesus' life. It's literally, the baptism's literally the beginning of his ministry. So I'd be interested to see if they're going to incorporate that in any way. But we'll see. One thing that I do think, we're going to see John the Baptist exalt Jesus, and we might see Jesus staying and baptizing because I think that we're going to see a lot of the interaction between John the Baptist followers and Jesus followers. And so I'm going to mark that as gold for right now. And also, I don't know, I really hope that they do this, but they might be saving this for later seasons whenever Jesus is about to die. But I really hope that we see Jesus come into the temple and just clean it out. There's a debate amongst scholars about whether or not this happened once or twice, or some people even think he did it every year, but I don't know about that. I would lean towards it happening twice, once at the beginning of his ministry and once at the end. But there's this story where Jesus, he comes to the temple, people have reduced it to a marketplace. He gets so ticked off that he starts flipping tables, he runs everybody out, and he says, "You have turned this house of prayer into a den of thieves." I hope that we see that in this season. I don't think we are because they might think that it's kind of redundant to do it twice in the show. I'd be fine with that because I think there are differences in the accounts. Like you have John who places it seemingly towards the beginning of his ministry, and then you have the Synoptic Gospels which place it towards the end. And they very well could be telling the same account, just John puts it at the front for a specific reason. But there do seem to be differences between them. And so I'd be fine seeing that twice, so I hope that we do. But it's not going to be that big of a deal if it's not in there because I could see why they wouldn't want to do it twice. Jesus began teaching in Galilee and stuff. He's already kind of done that, but I think we'll get more of that for sure. We might see Christ healing the nobleman's son. I know that in this trailer we do see a man running with his son in his arms, but there's no particular account in the Gospels that perfectly mirrors that. There is a guy who wants him to heal his daughter, but he actually brings Jesus to the daughter. The guy's name is Jairus. And so I'm not really sure what's going to go on with that. We might get some more Jesus casting out demons. I don't know if that's what's going on with Mary. In the trailer, she looks like she's kind of rough, like she's been having a tough time with stuff. I do think we'll see Jesus healing a bunch of people. I think we'll see Jesus rising up early to pray, just like we have in the past. But I don't know. There's a lot they could do here. I think we'll see some big events, and I'm sure we'll see some of this stuff down here as well. Jesus showing he's Lord of the Sabbath. I think there are things where they said that they were walking through some grain fields and everything in some scenes, and so I'm sure that we'll see a lot of this. I imagine a lot of the things that I've got right here will take place in this season because, like I said, they got 7 seasons, and there's a whole lot to cover. But that being said, that's all I wanted to do today. There wasn't a whole lot that I really wanted to cover other than just share my predictions. And if you have any ideas of what you think is going to show up in The Chosen, let me know. If you like The Chosen, give this video a like, please. And subscribe to the channel. Think about it. If you don't want to, my feelings won't be hurt. They might be hurt a little bit. But I want to talk about this show, right? I think it's really cool that we've got a good Bible-based, faith-based show out there that is being well made. A lot of Christian content isn't as well made as this show, and so I appreciate it, and I'm going to support them as long as I can, so long as the theology is good. If the theology gets kind of wacky, I'll let you know, and maybe I'll continue making videos to explain why it's wacky, but as of right now, it is theologically accurate, and I'm just grateful to have shows like this. And so, if you like this show, let me know what you like about the show. Are you excited about Season 2? Are you going to be watching it with us all on Easter? I'm excited. I'm going to get my family together. We're going to watch it. And just let me know what you're looking forward to in Season 2, what you think's going to happen. Who's your favorite disciple so far? What's your favorite scene with Jesus? Just tell me anything you want to say about the show, and I'd be happy to talk with you. Right now, this channel is small enough where I can actually reply to every person who comments, so please let me know. But that being said, that's all I've got to say for this. I've talked long enough. And so, until next time, I will see you later. My name is David. This has been Now Let's Be Honest About Movies, and today we have been talking about The Chosen. See you later.